Also, November book sale is coming up, November 18th and 19th. And there is a stated need for children's and young adult, like chapter books for young kids. And they were looking for friends of to volunteer for a Halloween party at the library. And they just talked about looking at different grants that they've applied for one from the state that they should hear back about in October. So
Okay, they're busy.
they are busy and very happy people.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah. The
delightful.
meetings are fun.
Yes, and if we, I love to write grants, so if we need any.
Oh, really?
I do.
Oh, Kim, send something to my wife, Sue, that says,
Okay.
yeah, send her an email. She'd love to have some help with that. That'd
I
be great.
started doing that as a young teacher, getting grants, and I was like,
That
"Ooh,
would be
this is
fantastic.
fun."
Yeah,
Especially because a lot of them don't, no one applies.
right.
And so sometimes you can get one and you're like, oh my gosh. you
No,
get
she
first
was,
prize.
she did it as an educator too, as I did. but I
Right,
don't-
right.
Yeah,
So
it
grants-
wasn't my fun thing to do. But, so, yeah, if you could, yeah, send
And
her.
as
an
we
email.
look into growing, getting into our new building, figuring out what grants we need to help move that along,
Yeah, that'd
and what
be
has
great.
to be through the friends, and I hope, I don't understand all of that yet,
Right.
but
Well, that'd
yeah.
be great. She'd
Yeah.
love that help.
I love the challenge of that.
Yeah, good deal. All right, Tim. Have some information for us?
I'll have an abbreviated version of this. I was not able to stay on the call all night last night, but I was able to have a nice conversation with the city council member this morning about the meeting. So we're in budget season, obviously, for city council. Last night, they were approving the capital facilities plan. There's a lot of moving pieces here with things like trailhead and funding and, I mean, just general improvements. I mean, so there's a lot of moving pieces here. It's gonna take several meetings to get through. So I'm not gonna get into the details of that because I quite honestly don't understand it and don't know how to add value to it. So honestly, there's also, they mentioned there was a mishap with the Kramer overpass last night or recently. I guess they dropped a girder due to some mechanical failures, actually damaged one of the walls for the Kramer overpass. It's going to push the Kramer overpass project not higher in price, but further out in time. So versus being done in the summer of 23, it looks like it's going to be closer to the fall of 23. Mission Avenue over here near the River District is still closed. It was supposed to have been opened by school, but they've got some issues with the pavement that was put down. It sounds like they are going to be able to do a resurfacing of it or a new additional surface of it to make sure it's correct, but that's supposed to have been open and it's not. What else? Most of the night was spent discussing the budget and all that kind of good stuff. So that's why I'm a little heightened. My senses are a little bit heightened to the budget, just because I want to make sure that if we've got, we do have very conservative city council members, and we have others that aren't maybe as concerned about the budget because they understand the revenue projections. But I would want to try and do whatever it takes for our library to get what we need up front and not have to go back and ask for it when it's desperately needed. So even if it's not needed now, we at least build that in going forward. So that's my only observation from the call last night. I know I'm missing some stuff. I apologize. Work's kind of getting in the way right now, and that's just what happens, kind of like life.
I got it. Thanks, Tim. All right. So we are on to the collection development policy review. This is up for approval today. So Jandy, I'm going to throw it your direction, but I don't know, I'm going to say this, I'm going to preface this whole thing by saying I don't know that it would be necessary unless you feel it's necessary to go through the whole thing, since we were given it and we've had a chance to go through it on several occasions.
Yeah,
But if you want to highlight some things that you feel are important for us to reinforce, then I will ask for a motion to approve, and we'll go ahead with the motion. Okay, Jandy, you're on.
So I have made all of the edits that were requested in the last meeting, in July's meeting, in May's meeting. I sent it out earlier this week and just got a couple minor commas, periods, misspelled words. So all of those have been updated as well. So as it stands now, the sections that we made the heaviest changes to are our selection criteria. We made some changes to different categories to make it more, explain more what we're looking for when we're making, when we're selecting materials for the library. Not every single criteria needs though to be met when you're selecting a book for the library. We've added a lot of different links to other documents that the library collection development policy looks to, like the Library Bill of Rights, the freedom to read, the freedom to view, the intellectual freedom statements for the Washington State Library. So we added links to those sections. We did a lot of research into the why the library does what it was, why the library does what it does as far as access, providing access to all, not limiting access to minors, and reviewed why those things exist for the library. And then the other section that we made a lot of changes to is our request for reconsideration of library materials when there's a book that's going to be challenged in the library. We made some changes and added some other questions to this document so that we can really help walk the patron through the process and make sure we're getting all of the information that we need. And we're able to kind of really pick their brain on what they're looking for and what issues that they have with the book. I don't know if we have any final questions about it or any concerns.
So does anybody have a
So Tim-
question for Jandy about the collection review policy?
It looks like Tim has a question.
I
Tim?
just want, it's just want to get I respect the position you're in, Jandy, and how difficult this policy is. I also know that we've recently had some issues regarding the policy. I just want to make sure that, are you comfortable that, and I don't know, I'm a real estate agent. I was a finance guy before that, so I am not a librarian. But are you comfortable that with the documents cited here, that we've got all the groups, all the preferences, a lot of these things are covered within those documents, so we're not being restrictive to any particular race or anything like that within our community, or sexual orientation, that kind of stuff. But we got everybody covered fairly.
Sorry, I'm not quite sure I understand what your question is.
I just want to make sure that we have not pigeonholed ourselves in our policy based on cherry picking certain policies that may give us a certain slant. Are these general enough policies that we're citing that will help, all citizens equally?
Yes,
Okay.
I do feel that we're not pigeonholing anyone. That's why I appreciated all the time that we put into the selection criteria.
Okay.
As far as that, because it keeps it broad.
Good.
I know in discussions I've had with the book challenge, there was concerns that as far as the selection criteria, that we needed to check every box, that a book should check every single box of our selection criteria. And that's something that doesn't allow us to buy all the books that we want to buy. And so I appreciate how there's some broadness to this, that not all criteria need to be met.
Okay, I would agree with that. I just want to make sure we don't build in any biases and we treat everybody equally, and that we're consistent when we're skipping certain boxes to check, that we're consistent over time. That's my only statement.
Yes. I don't know if this is something that doesn't deal with the collection development policy specifically, but the Baker and Taylor is the company that we buy all of our books from. And in the last couple of years, Baker and Taylor and Ingram have come out with a diversity, equity, and inclusion software that they can put your library collection through. And it looks through all the books that you have in your collection and lets you know places where you might need to expand your collection.
Oh,
If
so if your collection's leaning in more one direction, it allows for more
Yes, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it allows you to review your collection to just see if it, like you said, Teresa, which I think is good at leaning in one direction or the other,
Mhm.
so that you can correct that and purchase other books that balances out your
Mhm.
collection.
Does that make sense?
That's a great.
Yes, that
tool.
makes real
Yeah.
sense. That's a good tool.
So it's, I actually have a meeting with the representative on it later this month. Or I guess it's the end of September, so in October.
Yeah, that,
I'd love to hear what you discover when you have that, when you apply that and see what,
yeah, that's a great
that's
tool.
fascinating.
Yeah,
And I think also because the collection development policy was referenced throughout, and you cite the Library Bill of Rights, the Freedom to Read statement, that also encompasses the ability to have the broad review process.
I agree.
Because that's vetted and the citations, show for that too.
Any other-
The thing that I also appreciated about the software that they were showing me was it doesn't, I think, different topics like race or gender and sex are at the front of our mind when we think of diversity, equity, inclusion, and that sort of thing. The other thing that the software looks at is your nonfiction collections, as far as like, even just things like science, math, sociology, and it kind of looks at, this collection is really old. This collection is really, like, you have books from the 90s, and maybe in some categories like history, it's okay to have, or like, we have a whole collection of dress, like the style of dress in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. That hasn't changed in 2020, you know, the style of dress in the 20s, so it's okay to have a book that's a little bit older, but maybe your astronomy collection is 10 years old. There's been a lot of technological advances in astronomy in the last 10 years. So it highlights those collections, because that's something that we also want to make sure that we're up to date on.
Yeah, that's a great.
Is, you know, is our astronomy collection out of date? Is our travel, you know, travel collection out of date? You want to have the most up-to-date travel books if you're traveling Europe. You don't want Europe from 2013.
Right.
So it looks at all areas.
Does
Tim, do
anyone?
you feel like I answered your question well enough?
Oh, yeah, no, I just want, I mean, I'm not trying to test you. I just want to make sure that we're all thinking correctly. And I think I knew the answer already because I trust you and I know where you're headed, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we're on record for this, that we've done the best job we can to make sure that we're not excluding anybody. We're all very inclusive and that we've got an open mind to this stuff. So I do want to complain one thing though, there's not many real estate agent books in your library, but that's okay. I don't blame you. They're pretty boring.
All right, does anyone have any other questions for Jandy? Okay, I would
Oh, I have
like,
a question.
sure,
Shauna is going to include some citations of court cases. Did I remember that correctly?
She didn't include those in this document
Okay,
because they apply whether they're listed or not. Does that make sense? Since
right, I guess I was just looking at them as sort of more references for people who might question. But I guess we can pull that out when we need it,
yes.
yes, I agree,
because you're right, they're still there.
Mhm.
right. Okay, so Jandy, I want to say thank you, first of all, before I call for a motion, for all of your work and researching this and putting this together for us to review and discuss. And I appreciate the board's review and discussions and contributions over the last 4 months, maybe longer, 5 months. So having said that, I would call for a motion to approve the collection development policy review as submitted by our librarian, Jandy. Do I have a second?
I said,
Okay. A second.
Right.
Do I, yes, sir. Any
Well, I just didn't know if you could make the motion or not, but I mean, yeah, that sounds great. I'll make the motion if you can, so we have a second anyway.
We have a second. We have a motion. We have a second.
Okay,
And do we have any discussion at this point? No? Okay, all those in favor, please show me your hands to approve. Got it, Tim, where are you? There we go, good, thank you, we are approved, we have a new collection policy. which is great.
So we'll have
Um,
approved 4-0.
4-0,
And can you make sure in the minutes that lists everyone's name? Or,
yes. That would, and reflect, please, yeah, please reflect the vote in the minutes and the names of all of us that have approved the election policy. Great. Would it be appropriate at this time, Janny, I'm gonna ask you for me to make reference to the workshop on the 18th?
yes,
Okay, so at this point, I would like to ask all the board members to attend a special workshop meeting on October 18th that the council is going to hold in regards to this collection policy review that we have approved. So if we could all be at that meeting to support Jandy as she presents this and any questions that they may have for us going forward with that meeting, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'm
Good
still,
idea.
I'm still gonna have some conversations with Mayor Chris. On if this should be a library board report or a city council workshop. Just because I think workshop gives the idea that it could be workshopped and the document is in its final stage and not something that the council could workshop like a personnel manual policy or something like that.
Right.
Since it's a separate policy from the council, to me, that seems a little misleading, but it'll come down in the end to what Mayor Chris suggests she thinks would be best. But I will keep you guys updated on if it will just be
Well,
a report or a workshop.
I can shed some light on that.
Uh-huh,
I had a discussion with our mayor
mhm,
and she is pretty firm on it being a workshop.
okay,
And she feels that the council is pretty firm as well, is
Mhm.
wanting to have it reviewed as a workshop.
So
okay.
are
But
they?
the caveat of explaining that we are the board, the final word on the approval of the
I think this is a very important point though, that you're making, Brad, is that we've made our decision, we've done the research. I think I wouldn't be surprised if there are members of the city council that want to make the book decisions. Which tells me that, I don't necessarily believe that's their role. I look for them for doing things much bigger than that. However, I just know that there might be some frustration, some pushback, so.
Now, can we request that the city lawyer be there since he's already participated in this?
Yes.
he has, he's already weighed in on the conversation.
That- I just want to make sure on the event, when we present them the report, and say
Right.
this was approved already on the 21st.
Right.
In our bylaws.
Yes, so he's planning to be there. He will be there. The city administrator has been updated and will be there. We will be there. I really hope you guys can all come because I
We
feel
will be
like
there.
everyone has everyone has,
No, I'm gonna be gone, so. Yeah.
but I know that you guys have all participated heavily in this process. You guys have done a lot of research. I've done a lot of research. And I think, everyone has something that they can bring to the table. Shauna is a lawyer and can kind of help with those court cases that we went through.
Yep.
Teresa's an educator. Kim's an educator and has like that
I agree.
background. You're an educator. Tim, I feel like really understands the council.
Right, yep.
So,
Yes, and all of this would be an important, it's important as many of us, and I understand that you've already got prior commitments, but for all of us to be there to help with that,
Yeah.
understanding of the policy.
so it would be at 7.
It will be at 7, not the 6 o'clock for a
Okay,
workshop?
all right, you sure it won't be the 6 o'clock workshop?
So I will verify that for you guys, because
Okay.
that's really important. It was my understanding that at 6 o'clock would be like the budget workshop. And 7 PM will be for the other workshops. Because yeah, we always have workshops at 6 and at 7.
Yeah.
It was my understanding that this was at 7, but I could just be reading them wrong.
Okay.
So.
I think that's actually a good thing, in my opinion, because
Yes, I
I
agree.
don't think they're gonna have an hour at this thing, so I think it's more of us letting them know what's happening, what we're doing, and they don't have the time to come back and poke at it some more, so, I mean, that's just my opinion, but.
I agree with you. Okay. We've got that accomplished, and again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the effort that you put into that, Jandy. It was fantastic, and Shauna and Teresa and all the research with the state and stuff like that, everybody's contribution is fantastic. Under new business, I had put down library foundation. There's been some talk and some consideration by former board of trustee people and stuff with re-establishing the library foundation. I'm not really familiar with that whole process, so I put it down to see how the board, and this is in regards to the new building and raising funds for remodeling for the new building. I almost feel like I would rather strike it, strike it from the agenda and not even consider it, because I'm not sure that we would have, well, it would take somebody on the board to specifically do some research on the foundation as it stood prior to its I would say dissolution, and then reestablishing it, putting it in charge, all the legal things that have to be involved with that. And so we would have to have someone that would be willing to do that. So I'm just throwing it out there. If someone on the board would want to do that in regards to moving forward and trying to raise funds for the remodel of the new library, that's something we might consider as a board.
So there was a library.
There
literally
was a-
library foundation.
There was a
Yeah.
library foundation. Yes, and that kind of fizzled.
Where would you even find the history of that?
That's the key thing. We would have to contact certain people that were involved. I know, like Pat Lutzenberger, who was on the board. You'd have to be talking to, yeah, you know. There are other people that have some. Yes, thank you. Thank you. There are some people that have that history. But I think we have to have someone on the board that is willing to, explore that and go down that avenue. I'm not sure how fruitful it would be. That's why I suggest that maybe that it would take somebody to go down that path and kind of let us know if they felt it would be, a thing to really try to reestablish.
Yeah, get me started with who to talk to. I would just I would take down information about that and bring a report to the board.
That's great. Thank you,
Thanks,
Kim.
Kim.
So
That would be amazing.
That would be
Yes.
fantastic, Kim.
now
Thank you
I'm
very
gonna be
much.
gone for 3 weeks in October, November, so probably not.
That's fine.
That would be fine. Actually, I was gonna bring up December busy. We might not, I was gonna bring up maybe we just kind of give us a break in December, but I don't know what has to be done in December. We might have to we'll see where we go when we get to that point.
Mhm.
But it's not something that we need to think of right away, but probably next year we would have to have, if we wanted to move in that direction.
Yeah, I think there's some key people in the community like Linda Dockery who could probably help with that too. And is she part of the Friends?
Thank you, she is, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Who's that?
Linda Dockery, she's in the Friends, and she's a valuable resource.
very.
So I'll get you the names and like phone numbers and emails and stuff with people.
Great.
And like Pat Lexenberger and Linda Dockery, they might also know who else to talk to.
Okay,
Right.
right. And we'll just go see what we can find out, because that'll give us more information for how to move forward.
Right.
So.
That amazing group has coffee all over town. So if you need to find them, they don't track them down. It's pretty easy to find.
Starbucks. Starbucks Monday, Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday mornings.
Solving the problems of the world.
That's where we're at. We solve every problem that exists. At least in our minds. All right, is there anything else?
I don't have anything else.
All right, great.
The next
Bye.
meeting, I might be late. I'm driving back from Seattle that morning, so I'll be trying to be there, but I might come in screeching to the parking lot, so
Okay,
All
try and
right,
be there.
October 12th
so October 12th here at City Hall or via Zoom at 1 p.m.
at 1 p.m.
Great.
All right, thank you to all. Again, meeting is adjourned. All right.